All right, good evening. My name is Catherine and I work with SEB Housing. This is the information session for the 25 affordable rental apartments at NOBO in Saugus, Massachusetts. So the purpose of this information session is to give a little bit of background information on the units, cover the application, eligibility, and lottery processes, and then also let you know what to expect after the lottery drawing itself. So if you're watching this after the fact and you have any questions for us, the best way to get in touch is to email us at info@sebhousing.com. And tonight's meeting is being recorded, so you're able to watch it on our YouTube channel after the fact. So just to start out, wanted to give you some background information on SEB Housing. So we're an off-site affordable housing consulting group. So we've been hired by the developer. We're not the on-site management team or the leasing office, but we've been hired by the developer to collect and review applications to determine an applicant's eligibility for this lottery. So in the initial phases, we'll be your main point of contact, whereas later on in the process, you would be in touch with the leasing office after the lottery if you're one of the top households on the waiting list. So if you haven't already, you're invited to go to our website, sebhousing.com. If you click on affordable housing opportunities and select I want to rent and select NOBO, you'll be taken to a page specific for this property with a downloadable version of the application. It's in a PDF form, as well as an information packet, which contains a lot of the material I'll be covering during this information session. And even if you watch this information session, we do invite you to check out that information packet because there'll be a lot of useful information in there. So if you choose to apply for one of the apartments at NOBO, the first thing you'll need to do is complete that lottery application, and you can submit it to us in one of several ways. So you can submit it to us by email. A lot of people just fill it out, scan it as an attachment to an email and send it to info@sebhousing.com. You could also, you could also, if you're in the Needham area, that's where our office is, you could drop it off to us at 257 Hillside Ave in Needham, or you can send it by regular mail as well. So whichever one of those options is most convenient for you. We do encourage you to get the lottery application in early because it is fairly lengthy. So you'll see when you're reviewing the application, there's a lot of supporting documentation that's required, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but pay stubs, that sort of thing. The applications are due for this lottery by April 7th, and you don't need to be a resident of Saugus to apply for this lottery, but there will be several units that have local preference for residents of Saugus, which I'll be detailing in a few minutes as well. So the apartments at NOBO, so they actually have a website if you want to check it out. It's noboapartments.com, and there's some more information on the area, a full list of amenities and floor plans. But this is a brand new development located in Saugus, so there's going to be a total of 245 apartments. There are 25 of them that are going to be rented to households through this lottery, households that have income at or below 80% of the area median income. So the rent for the one bedrooms, as you can see here, is $2,315. The affordable rent for the two bedroom apartments is $2,562. The property itself has, or I should say the units have in-unit laundry, quartz countertops, modern appliances, and cabinets. There's also a resort-style pool at the community, a fitness center with yoga and cycling, an outdoor grill area, and some outdoor space for any dogs as well. So the affordable prices, those rents are set according to a formula for this affordable housing program. So they're not based on anyone's individual circumstances. That means if your rent changes, if your income changes, the rent will not change. So it's set in accordance, there's a formula that we follow that is based off of HUD, which is the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department area median income for the Saugus, Boston area. The rents could increase once per year. Typically that occurs in the spring. If you were to sign a lease for June, for example, your rent could not increase in the first year of your lease. It can only increase after the first year and never in the middle of a lease term. So the affordable units were selected by the owner, and they were approved by the state agency that oversees the affordable apartments. So they're not all clustered in one area. Nobody would know from the outside of the unit that it's an affordable apartment. They're spread throughout the building. And so we're holding the lottery because we know that there's going to be more interest in this property than there are available units. So the lottery will be held to create the waiting list that will be used when we're filling the units. So in terms of the eligibility for the affordable housing program, so there's 4 eligibility requirements. The first is that households need to be below that 80% of area median income amount that I mentioned. Those amounts are on your screen right now. So if you're a household of 1, if you have a income below $91,200, you could be eligible for this opportunity. And then it goes up from there in terms of if you're a 2-person household, 3-person household, etc. You also want to keep in mind that for eligibility purposes, household priority is typically given based on household composition. So what that means is usually if you're a larger household, meaning you have more people, you're going to have a higher priority for the larger unit. The affordable program is designed so that households that require the space of, say, a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom unit have that priority over someone who's maybe a single person. You can't own a home at the time of your lease signing, so that's another eligibility requirement. And then also, it doesn't come up very often, but households cannot have financial interest, meaning if you're related to the developer, if you work for the developer or the leasing office, you wouldn't be eligible for this lottery. But just to circle back on the first eligibility criteria, so income and assets of any applicants. So the maximum incomes are listed there, and they're also on the application and the information packet. All households are required to submit supporting income. So you're going to fill out your lottery application, but you're also going to need to submit verification of your income, assets, and taxes. The required documents vary a little bit depending on your income source. So if you're a self-employed person, you would need to submit a profit and loss statement to SCB Housing. If you have an employer and you just work for that employer, you get a steady paycheck every so often, every week or 2 weeks, you would be submitting a certain number of pay stubs, and that's all detailed on the lottery application. Income for this program is counted as a projection of your income over the next 12 months for all household members. So if you're earning a certain income right now, we're going to assume that you're going to continue to make that income going forward unless we have some sort of documentation that you're no longer working somewhere or something like that. But keep in mind that it is all income coming into the household. So if you have someone in your household who has Social Security or anything like that, you need to make sure that that's listed on your application and verified as well. The only exceptions are minors. So if you have someone under the age of 18 that's earning a wage, we're not going to count that wage. Or if you have a full-time dependent student, so maybe you have a college student in your household, a 20-year-old who's working, we're not going to count the full amount of their wages. It would only be the first $480 of their wages. And it is the gross income that we need to count. Unfortunately, the program does require that. Most of us are not taking home the amount that's listed on our paycheck because of taxes and medical payments, medical insurance and all of that. But it is the gross amount that we need to use or consider. So when you're filling out that application, like I said, not just wages, make sure you're listing Social Security payments, unemployment, pension amounts, anything like that needs to be listed. There's no minimum income amount for the affordable housing program. However, most management teams, including the team at NOBO, want to be sure that all tenants can afford the rent, regardless of whether or not they're renting a market rate unit or an affordable unit. So the management company has set a minimum household income that is 2.5 times the monthly rent. The amounts are listed in the information packet, but for example, if you're looking to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, the approximate minimum income is going to be $69,000. For 2 bedrooms, it's about $76,000. If you have a mobile housing voucher, so a Section 8 or an MRVP, you can disregard those minimum incomes because they don't apply to your household, because you're going to have that voucher that is covering a portion of your rent from the agency that administers that voucher. But if you don't have a voucher, you need to be between the minimum incomes that are set by the leasing office, which give or take are around the amounts that I just mentioned, and the maximum amount that are on your screen here, the maximum income limit. In terms of assets, there's no asset limit for this opportunity either for this lottery, but if you do have any assets like money in checking accounts or a 401k retirement account, we're going to be asking for information to verify those assets. Although there's no limit, we do need to verify them because if there's any income that is being generated by those assets, that would need to be counted. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, if you're interested, we just recommend that everyone apply as soon as possible to get the process started. Do want to mention too that you can apply for more than one unit size. So if you think you might be interested in both a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, for example, you should indicate that on your application. There's no downside to doing that, but there is potentially a downside if you only apply to one unit size and then decide that you're interested in the larger apartment later on, because you'll be put at the bottom of that waiting list after the fact. So once you submit your lottery application, we're going to review it. We're going to contact you if any information appears to be missing, and we will give you an opportunity to submit the missing information to us. So don't worry if you forget something. We're going to work with you to make sure that we get that information in. It's rare that we get a completed application right off the bat because there is a lot of information that's required. And then also something that you send in might spark a question from us. So maybe there's a bank deposit or something on your pay stubs that we need to have verified. So once you send in your lottery application, if you're found to be eligible, you're going to get a lottery application number, and it's going to be in the form of a series of numbers. And that's not a ranking of any sort at this point. It's just a confirmation of your spot, or I should say your lottery number. And it's an anonymous identifier that is going to be used to that's going to be used in the lottery. So we're not counting you, we're not yelling out your name during the lottery. So if you're the very first person to be approved for this lottery, your number is going to be A.001, for example. That email is also going to confirm whether or not you applied for local preference. So if you indicated that you live in Saugus, work full-time in the town, or you're a guardian of a child attending Saugus Public Schools, then you could have that local preference, which will give you priority on certain waiting lists. That email will also confirm the bedroom sizes that you applied for. So make sure that you're reviewing that. Make sure you're reviewing that email in its entirety so that everything looks good to you. If it doesn't, then please let us know, and we will talk with you and change that for you. So the lottery itself is going to be held virtually on April 23rd. It's going to be in the same format as this. So it's going to be a Zoom at 6 p.m. And numbers will either be drawn from a box or they will be digitally reordered for the lottery. And there'll be screen share with you. You'll be able to see the lottery take place. You don't need to attend the lottery. You're not going to know a whole lot during the lottery because I do have to first sort the results onto the waiting list. During the lottery, every number is going to be picked. Sometimes you think of lotteries, you think, okay, there's 25 affordable units, they're going to draw 25 numbers, but that's not the case here because we need to draw every number to make sure that everyone has a place on the waiting list. So generally, it is going to be more beneficial if you are if you're drawn early in the lottery and you're higher on the list, but that is not the deciding factor as to whether or not you'll be moving forward to lease a unit, since we first need to sort the results based on local preference, whether or not your household is a type 1, type 2, type 3 household. And also, there could be households ahead of you who are determined or are found to be ineligible. So if you're further down in the waiting list, that doesn't mean that you won't have an opportunity to move forward in this process. So like I said, following the lottery, we're going to populate the waiting list. We're going to take all of those preferences into consideration. The waiting list themselves and more information will be sent to you later on that evening. So even if you don't attend the lottery, you will have the results that evening. And when you're looking at that email, you're going to see your lottery application number on at least one of the waiting lists. And you'll have a better idea at that point as to whether or not you'll be moving forward to the next step in the process, which is to apply for a lease. So at that point, you will be in touch with the leasing office, and you will be provided with the management's information so you can contact them and make sure that you fill out that lease application. So at that point, SDB Housing has completed your lottery and program eligibility screening, but we haven't screened you for lease eligibility because that's what the management team is going to do to confirm your credit check, rental history check, criminal background check, that sort of thing. So they'll do that. If you are found to be lease eligible and you're one of the top households on the list, you're going to have the first chance to reserve an affordable unit. So if you have the top position on the 2-bedroom waiting list, for example, you'll have the first choice of the available affordable 2 bedrooms. And you'll be able to tour the apartments before you make a decision on that. And the second person on the waiting list will have the second choice of the remaining units and so on. Once you are finished with your lease screening, you won't have to do any income reviews until your lease renewal date. So at that point, we hope that you've been enjoying living in your apartment. If you want to extend your lease beyond that first year of the lease, you can do that. You would just need to recertify your income with the management team prior to your lease renewal. Usually they start that process about 2 or 3 months in advance of your lease date. If during the year your income increased and you're now above 80% of area median income, that's fine. You would remain eligible for the affordable apartment for as long as your income doesn't exceed 140% of the area median income. So to give you an idea of what that means, a household of 2 would have qualified for this lottery with an income at or below $104,200. That same household can make up to $145,000 at the time of their recertification next year and remain eligible for the affordable apartment. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. People have questions a lot of times about, if I get a raise or if I get another job, am I still going to be able to rent at this affordable rate? And the answer is sometimes yes, because if your income doesn't increase beyond that 140%, then you will be able to remain in the apartment at that same rent. That about covers everything that I wanted to get to on the information packet. So again, you can find the lottery application for the affordable apartments at NOBO on our website. And just to put it up on the screen again here, if you have any questions, if you're reviewing this after the fact, you can contact us at info@sdbhousing.com or at this phone number here if you prefer to call us at 617-782-6900 extension 1. And we look forward to getting your application for NOBO in Saugus. Have a good evening.